She always knew what was best. Some monsters are born from chaos, others from devotion. In the stillness of the mid-century America, one isolated home became a crucible of fear, faith, and forbidden thought. This isn't the story of what happened behind those walls. It's the story of how belief, guilt, and control can reshape a human mind. What happens when love becomes indistinguishable from fear?
Bowlby proposed that attachment is a deep emotional bond formed between an infant and their primary caregiver, crucial for survival and emotional development. He argued that this bond ensures infants stay close to caregivers for protection, especially during vulnerable stages of life.
The earliest voice we hear often becomes the loudest one inside our heads. In some families, love is protection. In others, love becomes surveillance, wrapped in moral absolute. Psychologists call this enmeshment, when a parent's identity merges so deeply with the child that boundaries dissolve. In extreme cases, guilt replaces independence and obedience replaces thought. In mid-century rural America, strict religions or households reinforced this pattern. For some children, affection was conditional on purity. Punishment meant protection.
When we don't have boundaries and we allow people to influence how we think about ourselves and our situation, meaning when they say something like you're worthless, we accept it. We take it in as fact. We internalize that for better, for worse. And so if we're enmeshed, we have no separation from other people. How they feel, we feel. How we feel, they feel. What they say, we believe. And what we say, they believe. That's just not healthy.
When your conscience is someone else's voice, can you really be free? In isolation, belief doesn't fade, it echoes. After the loss of a controlling parent, some individuals experience traumatic dependency withdrawal, a state where the mind tries to resurrect what it's lost. The absence becomes unbearable, so the psyche builds an illusion of presence. This isn't madness, it's grief amplified by repression.
Being alone takes on an entirely different dimension when it creeps up or is forced upon you. When that's the case, the effects can be surprisingly extensive. And though different people experience distinct effects at different times, symptoms tend to become more severe and persistent the longer one's isolated. When someone is involuntarily confined to one space indefinitely for days, weeks, months, or even years, alone and without productive tasks, their body will likely undergo numerous changes. Let's take a look at what may happen and why. Early on, stress hormones may spike, and as time passes, that stress can become chronic. Social interactions and meaningful activities are essential for emotional stability. This may be because they provide us with what researchers call social reality testing, a sort of sounding board where we can gauge how rational our perceptions are. So, when someone's deprived of those kinds of communication and tasks, their sense of identity and reality becomes threatened. Their thoughts spiral and their impulses take the reins, setting the stage for depression, obsessions, suicidal ideation, and, for some, delusions and hallucinations. Over time, this prolonged agitation can cause the brain's limbic system, which regulates fear and stress, to become especially responsive and hyperactive. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, the brain's hub for reasoning and moral judgment, may shrink, impairing one's focus, memory, and cognition. Overall, the balance shifts from rational thinking towards emotionality, and as someone remains in this state, the imbalance becomes ingrained, making them more prone to bouts of anxiety, rage, and irrational actions.
When your only connection is to fears, your mind grew. The border between devotion and delusion is thinner than we think. In religious extremism and authoritarian parental alike, fear and faith intertwine. Psychology describes this as moral rigidity, a worldview where every act is either sacred or sinful. When a child raised under such absolutes loses their moral compass figure, they may internalize that voice, carrying guilt, punishment, and self-surveillance for life.
When we talk about shame and guilt when it comes to religion, we're talking about things like feeling bad constantly for any little thing. Not praying enough or saying a little white lie can make you feel terrible, but in the way a conscience regularly would. The guilt is directly tied to religious morality and the fear of hell. It is a battle of extremes. An extremely small action or even thought has an extremely large toll on your mental health. If you have religious trauma, you might think that this is how everyone deals with their guilt. For the vast majority of religious people, it isn't. Trauma can happen when you face abuse. This can happen in your religious experience as well. The term for this type of trauma is spiritual abuse. This happens when someone uses your religion or spirituality against you to manipulate you, exploit, or deceive you. This can happen if someone misuses scripture to control you or guilt trip you. If you faced other kinds of abuse from someone with religious authority, this could also cause religious trauma. You may start to resent religion. The initial sting of the trauma may die down over time, but your opinion of religion is less likely to change if the trauma isn't addressed. Not everyone experiences religious trauma, so you may feel like an outsider.
If your idea of love is punishment, what happens when there's no one left to punish you? By the time the outside world would notice, the transformation was already complete. The man the world come to fear wasn't born evil. He was shaped by isolation, obedience, and the unbearable echo of his mother's voice that never stopped speaking. Freedom can feel like betrayal to those raised under control. After losing the one person who defined right and wrong, the mind splits oneself, longs for independence. The other clings to obedience. This conflict, known as internalized control, creates unbearable tension. Every independent thought triggers guilt. Every guilt triggers regression.
In adulthood, when it's coming from trauma, a traumatic experience, when it's from a defense mechanism, it will always be negative. And it will give you negative words and messaging. You're not good enough. Only I would ever love somebody like you. Nobody really likes you.
What if your conscience belonged to someone else? Psychologists use the term ego collapse to describe what happens when identity and morality implode together. Cut off from social correction and consumed by guilt, the mind creates rituals to maintain control. These rituals replace the relationships, turning memory into obedience. The brain, trying to repair the past, instead begins reacting it.
Some people find it hard to make sense of the world around them. They lose touch with reality. They find it hard to make sense of their own internal world, their thoughts and feelings. Their perceptions can be severely altered. A person with these symptoms may be experiencing psychosis. Out of every 1,000 Australians, around 5 will be treated for psychosis each year. While people's experience of psychosis varies, it is common to have extreme mood swings, behave strangely, have jumbled thoughts and muddled speech. People experiencing acute psychosis will sometimes talk and respond to voices and other hallucinations that only they can see or hear. They may feel afraid and paranoid, be guarded and suspicious of other people.
When the past becomes religion, the future disappears. When the world finally saw what isolation and obsession had created, horror turned to fascination. Researchers recognized the pattern: maternal over-control, social isolation, guilt-based identity collapse. It wasn't the story of one man. It was a mirror for how the human mind can bend under the weight of emotion.
Psychologists deal with a wide range of legal issues, including determining if someone had a guilty mind when they committed a crime. This involves understanding whether the person knew what they were doing was wrong, which is a critical legal question. Each state and the federal government have their own definitions of insanity, and forensic psychologists play a crucial role in these assessments. In contrast, criminal psychology is more focused on the criminal mind itself rather than the legal implications.
We weren't just studying a killer, we were studying ourselves. Guilt is memory weaponized. For those raised under the moral perfectionism, failure is sin. The mind cannot rest until it atones. And if forgiveness is impossible, obsession takes its place. This case became a lens through which psychologists explored how religious guilt and emotional control can breed compulsive behavior.
Part of our identity, when we are controlled by narratives that are dehumanizing or shame-based within a religious system, we can experience deep trauma. It's one thing when your boss tells you you're a failure. It's another thing when someone claiming to speak for God tells you something similar.
Some people pay for redemption, others try to build it. In the wake of the case, the term forensic psychology entered classrooms and courts alike. Researchers traced how dependency, repression, and parental dominance intersect with adult pathology. They concluded that the most dangerous mind isn't one without emotion. It's one where love and fear are the same.
Psychology is a branch of psychology that focuses on the study of abnormal behavior, thoughts, and emotions. It examines the causes, symptoms, and treatment of mental disorders and conditions that deviate from the norm. One of the key assumptions of abnormal psychology is that abnormal behavior, thoughts, and emotions are not necessarily pathological, but are a normal and expected part of the human experience. However, when these experiences become severe, persistent, and disruptive, they may be considered a mental disorder.
Hollywood turned this story into monsters, but psychology saw something deeper. A tragedy born from control and devotion. In that reflection, society saw its own anxieties. The fear that love, when twisted by power, can create obsession. Understanding isn't forgiveness, it's prevention. Because behind every act we call evil, there's a mind still searching for order. If exploring the human mind fascinates you, subscribe for more true psychology analysis. Because sometimes, to face what scares us most, we have to understand it first.